Cristiano Ronaldo, no longer a Manchester United player, seemed inevitable since the moment that he, the interview with Piers Morgan was broadcast. Unclear how that was going to come about, but what has happened, Seb?
Yeah, so I spoke to David Ornstein earlier, and Manchester United and Cristiano Ronaldo have mutually agreed to part ways. There's been no money changing hands. There's been no pay up contracts. They've just terminated his deal, and he is free to move on, I guess. Sounds like it was mutual agreement, and strange little saga has ended.
Yeah.
Very, very strange.
It is odd, isn't it? I mean, I suppose he's now a free agent during the middle of the World Cup. Portugal are going to play on Thursday, so I'm sure we'll be keen to see that. But, John, for the time being, I just want to talk about Manchester United a little bit. It seems clear that they are better, or they have been better this season without him in the team. So, I mean, from a perspective of both, I imagine both parties would be fairly happy with the outcome of this. But for supporters of Manchester United, you would have thought that, I mean, this isn't the sort of, horror blow that it might have once been.
No, and there's, I think, a couple of reasons why Cristiano Ronaldo hasn't fit into this team, based on the ideas that Erik Ten Hag is trying to instill in the team. So I think you can break them down into two areas, on the ball and off the ball, the simple distinction like that. So let's start off by just having a look at what Cristiano Ronaldo why he's not really worked in terms of the out of possession stuff. So Erik Ten Hag is largely sort of playing a possession-based system, which is going to use those ideas we call positional play. So he's going to try and get his players into certain areas of the pitch, where he can attack the space that is left open by like a back four. Cristiano Ronaldo has played as a 9 in this system, and I think the stuff we've just been talking about with respect to Olivier Giroud is really interesting in this point, because what Erik Ten Hag wants from his number 9 is very much the sort of thing we saw Olivier Giroud doing tonight for France. So what we usually say when we talk about a player who's going to play in this sort of role is they need to be a good box presence. So sit between the two centre-backs. If the ball's in wide areas and is being crossed in, you want to see the situation where Ronaldo can win the header by getting direct to the ball. But also there'll be certain situations where the ball will come in from a cutback as well. And what you want in these sorts of situations is you want the number 9 to make probably the front post run here to get the option, and then usually there'll be someone coming in behind here to make if the ball is missed then or is cut back, you can then take the shot there. And so I think one of the big issues with Ronaldo is that he's never really played this kind of role particularly well. I think whenever he's played he's obviously a box presence in a very specific way and has been for his whole career, but generally he's been coming in from wider positions and is almost like a secondary box runner. So usually there would be a striker ahead of him, and he would find these secondary runs where he gets into these areas and then is the player picking up the ball in space as well. As he's got older as well, I think he's now much less dangerous of a box presence as well. So that's the first area in terms of what Erik Ten Hag is wanting from his 9. He wants someone who's going to score goals, who's going to be a pivot in that forward 3. The other thing that he's going to want from his 9 is he wants them to be able to be a presence in terms of the build-up stuff as well. So that is, if the ball's coming into him, he can then find these sorts of passes into wide players. But also, I think he is going to want a number 9 who's a hold-up player. So when the ball comes in, he can stand up an opposition defender and then lay the ball off as well to someone else behind him as well. And he's not been really that dangerous in that sort of role at all. And I think as a result of this, with Manchester United not being necessarily great in possession all the time under Erik Ten Hag, what then tends to happen is you'll see Ronaldo drifting to pick the ball up because the progression isn't working, the possession system isn't working, and so he's had to get the ball, he's had to then drop deeper, and that means then you don't have that pivot player in the front line as well. So in possession, all kinds of issues there. Do you want me to talk about the out of possession stuff?
I'd love you to, yeah.
Can you talk for a little bit while I delete
my expectation is that the in possession stuff is well, in some ways less complicated, but it also less obvious. The out of possession stuff seems to be the thing that people have been discussing since the beginning of the season, and partly that is related to his age. I mean, that's not specific to him. You would not expect a player going into their late 30s to be able to make the same kind of sprints and run for the same kind of duration as you would expect a younger player to do. It's worth pointing out that Cristiano Ronaldo is extremely athletic.
Yes.
And therefore, in terms of how he compares to a younger player, I actually have no idea. But I think it's a fair expectation of a player in their late 30s that they wouldn't necessarily be able to do that or match the durability maybe of a younger player. When it comes to the off-the-ball stuff at Manchester United, things have changed since Eric Ten Hag arrived, and the expectation of what the forwards do, John, is it fair to say a bit more complex than it would have been before?
Yeah, for sure. And this all comes down to when we talk about elite managers wanting to control every phase of the game. What they're going to want to do is be able to force the opposition to do certain things that allows them to either win the ball back or cause the opposition to, move into an area where they can be controlled. And so there's been certain games this season where Manchester United have looked really good, and there's been some games where Manchester United haven't looked so good. And usually the difference is that the press is working or not. And again, to go back to the board then, with your number 9, you're just doing it's not even necessarily a very complex thing, but generally what happens is that you're going to determine which way the press is going to go. So if the ball goes one way, usually you're going to see Ronaldo firstly close this passing lane between these two players. So what you're doing then is you're saying, okay, you've decided to play on this side of the pitch. So he closes that off and then puts pressure on. And the general idea then is that this will force the ball into this area.
The centre-back has to pass it out to the full-back.
Yeah, sorry. The centre-back has to pass it out to the full-back, and then Rashford on this side will put them under pressure. But the important thing is that they make this curved run here, which closes off the pass back to the other side, the centre-back on the other side, because what you're then doing is you're saying the press is going to be constructed on one side of the pitch. And obviously the same thing happens the other way as well. So let's say the goalkeeper passes to the left-sided centre-back in this instance. You will then expect him to make this run here, or curve it in, close that passing lane off, and then force the press that way. And the reason why that's important is because Manchester United are playing a hybrid press at times, and that means that a player like Antony will be responsible for a player here, the fullback, and then a central midfielder as well. So if the ball goes on one side, Antony will pull onto the central midfielder, leaving the fullback free. If Ronaldo doesn't close that pass down, that means the ball can come in here, and then suddenly your press is completely open.
So
the ball
it's
can come into the
essential
fullback.
that everyone does their job.
It's essential that everyone watches the video of this stream, because it will make a lot more sense. But yeah, the point is that Ronaldo is the first person who is making the pressing trigger. It's very important that both he makes those movements, but also recognises the movements he's supposed to be making. And as soon as that breaks down, the rest of your press can fall to pieces.
2 more questions on this quickly. The first one is Anthony Martial been unable, as usual, I suppose, to keep fitness, but it seems the team are a lot better with him. Why is that? And the second is Portugal seemed very, very good when Ronaldo didn't play the other day. But presumably he will be starting during the tournament.
Yeah, so in answer to the first question, Martial just does a lot of those roles a lot better than Ronaldo does. So he's a really good box presence. He's also really good at the hold-up side of the game as well. And so I think he just makes a lot more sense. He's also played... Eric Ten Hag has also played Rashford there, but the problem is that Rashford's played really nicely on the left-hand side, and so it means you're basically taking a player who's playing well on one side and moving them into another position. Yeah. So if Martial's free, it just gives you the flexibility to probably play your best front three all at once. In terms of for Portugal, yeah, it looks likely that Ronaldo will be played in that game, and the interesting thing is that, as you said, there was a friendly game the other day that was played where Portugal looked very good without him in the team, and this is the reality of where Cristiano Ronaldo is at now. Is that the expectation is that he plays regardless of the fact that he will make the structure both in and out of possession worse.
If you liked today's video, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you did like it, you might be interested in How to Watch Football, Tifo's illustrated book. It's 52 rules for understanding the beautiful game on and off the pitch, and it is the perfect holiday gift. How to Watch Football is out now in stores and online. See the link in the description to find out more, and thank you for watching today's video.